Hi guys, welcome to my guide for defeating Uber Aberroth with Warpath Void Knight. Uber Aberroth is by far the hardest boss fight you will ever find in Last Epic. The fight is supposed to be super hard, so you're gonna need quite some tries to defeat him for the first time. You will need to understand his patterns and to understand if your current itemization is good enough. I will explain more during the video about what can help you. While he charges the first slam, you are gonna have a great DPS window, where you should be able to bring him down to his first shield threshold, which is at 80%. If you are unable to reach this threshold or at least be close by a couple of percentage points, you probably don't have enough damage to kill him, as the fight is gonna protract way too much to be manageable. So I'd recommend revisiting your build and itemization. Now, while usually people recommend dodging the slam over to the side of the arena, what I recommend instead is to lure him towards the middle. The reason why is that, with Warpath Void Knight, we want to continue to channel and we want to have access to any mobility skill. This makes dodging the triple slam much harder whenever Abberth stands on the very edge, as we won't be able to move behind him. After the shield is down, he will go down to about 65% of his health and summon the first harbinger, which is always going to spawn from the top left side of the arena. Try to stay close to Abberth and let the harbinger come to you. Remember, he's invulnerable while the harbinger lives, so you won't be able to leech health from him but only from the harbinger. He will also very likely use immediately the meteor summoning skill, so try to position behind him while you delete the harbinger. In the meantime, let's talk about the other things he does. One thing you have to be extra careful about is the slam he does right after or a bit after his triple slam, which generates a path of void flames that almost insta-kill you if you walk over them. If you can, try to bait him into directing that skill towards the outer arena, so you will have more space to deal with everything else without the risk of dying. Take in consideration also the fact that the void flames path lasts on the ground for about 30 seconds. Also, consider that the hitbox of the slam itself is wider than the actual flames path, so you always need to try to dodge that going behind him or wider on the sides. You can tank the slam, not the flame path, if you have more than 4.3k health points on a correctly built Void Knight with max resistances and more than 70% armor mitigation while channeling. Another thing you need to be careful about are the flying void spheres, which, upon contact with you, will drop on the ground and leave a puddle that is permanent. Those puddles will deal a moderate amount of damage to you if you stand on them. So, while walking over them, if you have a decently tanky build, is quite safe. Standing still on them is going to kill you or leave you way more vulnerable to all the other sources of damage. For this reason, you should always try to dodge as many as possible, especially if you play around the center as I recommended. Now, there is a way to clear to floor from those puddles, which is to use the flame spell that Abberth casts on you, as you just saw me doing here in the video. Prioritize, if possible, the cleansing of the puddles in the very middle of the arena, because in the very last part of the fight you're gonna be forced to stay there. So if you know you need to cleanse the ground, you know he is probably going to give you the flame spell after an ice spell. The ice spell is the one he also does at the very beginning of the fight, after his big slam. It's nothing scary, it's just another puddle which attracts ice meteors towards its center. It won't kill you, just don't get hit by subsequent ice projectiles, if possible. Also, it slows if you have no slow immunity. Alright, we covered the slams, the flying bubbles, and the fire and ice spells. Going back to the progression of the fight, we killed the first harbinger and now we have to bring him down to his other threshold, which is at 50% HP. When the shield is gone, he's going to summon his second harbinger, this time from the top right corner of the arena. The strategy is gonna be the same as the previous one, except he's gonna add in another spell, which is a series of subsequent necrotic waves. Since the first one is gonna come right after he summons the harbinger, my tip here is to move away from him and go towards the harbinger. He will cast it while you move, but as you continue moving towards the harbinger, you will be out of range. This spell per se is easy to dodge but quite important, because it's almost lethal and applies a resistances debuff for each time you're hit. This debuff cannot be cleansed, so it's mandatory to avoid. Uber Aberroth is going to cast this spell about every 15 seconds until the end of the fight, as usual, in between his other attacks. Other than that, after we slaughtered the other harbinger, we have to bring Abberth down to his 36% HP threshold. When we break the shield, Abberth is gonna start recovering his full HP and start limiting the arena towards the center, as a giant puddle of deadly void stuff is gonna start closing upon the middle. Abberth is going to get very angry and unlock another spell. This one is series of 2 giant beams of void energy. The first one is telegraphed and shown on the ground before he does it, giving you the time to dodge it. The second one is gonna be immediately after and directed toward you, so you have to keep giggling around him. Now we enter the final phase of the fight. He's in the middle, and he's gonna do everything he already did to you, starting with the usual single big slam, but with the limitation of the arena being much smaller. The secret here is to approach him very calmly. You already know what he does, you know how to dodge it. Just be super careful about the usual flames path, be mindful of where it is, because the amount of puddles and attacks you will have around is going to cover it, and you might accidentally walk on it. Other than that, everything else is the same. Avoid the big slam, dodge the triple slam, dodge the void beams, try to not make too many puddles, use the fire spell to clean them if Abberth uses that, and be mindful of the void flames path. This final part is sweaty, but it's much shorter than the rest of the fight. You already know how to do it, as you've already done it if you reached this phase of the fight. Focus. As a final consideration, I invite you to take a look at the skill tree for Warpath I used to kill Uber Aberroth. Here I have 1 extra skill point due to the Shatter World's relic, but that point is the 1 extra on the Molten Path node, which gives extra armor shred chance. Other than that, you should have all the 26 points. As you can see from the usual build, I decided to put 2 points on the Warrior's Fury to boost up the damage, and 1 on the Dark Nexus node to help with the mana sustain. If you're following the builds on max roll, just take off the points on the Way of the Executioner because that is not gonna help in a boss fight. I really hope this helps. Good luck to you all, and thanks for watching.